Extra time.
Destiny. Life is about millimeters, about timing.
The event that all Arsenal fans have been looking forward to, the arrival of their new manager.
Honestly, when I think about it, they were brave.
How much are the players looking forward to Arsene Wenger arriving?
Who? Arsene Wenger's been in Japan. He's unaware of the demands of our game.
I was not scared of anybody in football.
Would you believe it?
It was the start of it, the real start of it.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Football Daily podcast. Today, I am joined by Christian Jeanpierre, director of the brand new film about Arsene Wenger called Invincible, which is out in cinemas on the 11th of November and on Blu-ray, DVD and for digital download on the 22nd of November. I, for one, have had the privilege of watching it already, and I must say, Christian, I thought it was absolutely superb. Gives a really amazing overview over Arsene Wenger's career, particularly in England, that we'll get onto. And yeah, I learned a lot of new things about the man, the legend that is Arsene Wenger. So yeah, first of all, Christian, thanks for taking time out of your day to talk to us. First of all, congratulations. Like I said, fantastic film. I urge everyone who can to go and see it when it comes out. But let's get straight into the kind of themes of the film and what the film's about. Because it kind of starts with kind of Wenger in his hometown. Obviously touches on his begins his time at Arsenal, but then it switches kind of back to his early success at Monaco in the late 80s and early 90s. Obviously, he won the title with them in 1988, didn't he? You were starting your career in journalism around that time, so I was just wondering, was there a sense at that time that Arsene Wenger was a special manager?
It's a good question, Michael. Arsene was different from another coaches. He won the French championship at 38 years old, against a big armada with Olympique Marseille of Bernard Tapie. And I remember very well my first interview with Arsene, and I said, wow, this man is strong, and he speaks too well.
Yeah, fair enough. He always had a way with words. So you've obviously known Arsene for a long time. And the film follows him in his kind of hometown, like I was saying, where he grew up, and also where he lived in London, in Totteridge, which is a kind of suburb in North London. When you were kind of filming him in these places, did you notice a different side to him than what you kind of knew of him as a football manager?
No, there are neither difference between Arsene, the Englishman in London, or Arsene, the coach in Strasbourg. And I like his quality, because Arsene is able to speak about football with Emmanuel Macron 10 days ago at Élysée Palace, or with a little coach in Strasbourg for division in Alsace. The respect during the conversation is the same with Emmanuel Macron or the old coach of the 4th division in France. It's the same respect.
Yeah, I love that. You definitely get a sense of that in the film with him talking to the kids at his kind of the kind of training ground that I think he built, or at least it was named after him in his hometown. So let's move on to when he was at Arsenal, which is what the film is mainly based around. Obviously, it's called Invincible. It's it builds up to that Invincible season that everyone remembers, or at least everyone who was born before the year 2000. And what I didn't realise was that Arsene Wenger actually quite publicly as well challenged his side to go unbeaten in 2000. First of all in 2002-03, and then they didn't manage it, but then they obviously managed it the second year. I was just going to. Could you imagine a current manager making such a bold move? Because I don't even remember Arsene Wenger being that bold in terms of what he publicly challenged his players to do. Could you imagine any current managers doing the same thing?
The period is different. You are a young journalist, but why not? Why not? I hate the coaches who broke the player in press conference. I hate this. It's better to ask to this player the impossible target. And you say, sometime in life, you have a big surprise. In Paris, we had a national coach, Raymond Domenech, who made wedding proposal on the TV. It was crazy. And the football sometimes has a lot of imagination.
That's funny. I didn't realise that. So in short, then there isn't really a manager out there who perhaps would do that right now. But you're right. I think football has changed a lot since the early 2000s, and I think we definitely see that, don't we, in the film in terms of the Arsenal-Man United rivalry, the Wenger-Ferguson rivalry. Even Wenger himself says in it how how he kind of preferred that time because when you got tackled back then, you really did get tackled. It was a lot more, players really went to war back then a lot more, I think, and that's definitely that's actually a side of Wenger that I kind of forgot about, actually, the kind of the fiery side. It's very, having seen years, he's very much an elder statesman of the game now, and he's very softly spoken. So it was very refreshing to kind of see him back in that kind of war kind of that kind of army general almost. Although he never was quite like that. But you subtly, I feel like he encouraged that in his players, especially in the big games against Man United. Speaking of which, we in the film, you managed to get an all-star cast of interviewees, especially from that Invincibles era. Who did you have the most fun with interviewing?
Without a doubt, Patrick Vieira, the old captain. Yeah, I love so much the personality of Pat, the mind of Pat. I like a phrase by Pat on the documentary. Arsene is a father on your project. You're going to say I'm a romantic journalist, but sometimes I dream that Arsene's return as a chairman to Arsenal, and his coach is the old captain Patrick Vieira. That will be for me a beautiful story, because it's a story about the transmission between the big coach, famous coach Arsene, and the old captain.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing to see, wouldn't it? And I mean, who knows? Maybe not too far in the future, Patrick Vieira has made a good start to life at Crystal Palace, hasn't he? I think he's got, earned a lot of plaudits actually in England as a result of that. And actually, what I find interesting is that Patrick Vieira, when he first came to Crystal Palace in the summer, obviously he's got a lot more to prove. It's only been a few months, but people were quite sceptical about him because they weren't quite sure of, his time at Nice was, a bit mixed, wasn't it? So people weren't quite sure of him, and it's interesting in the film just how, Arsene Wenger, the first foreign manager to win a Premier League title, the kind of scepticism around him then, and also, what could probably just be described as a slight kind of xenophobia from certain sections of the English media as well when he arrived. I just wanted to quickly ask you, what was the view in France of what Arsene Wenger was doing at Arsenal at the time? Do you remember? Like, was there much publicity for it?
Arsene in France, it's a monument.
Yeah,
we don't need a statue at the Emirates. For the French public, Arsene, it's a monument. But it's a monument of international football. I spoke 2 weeks ago with Kylian Mbappé, and Kylian said to me the same thing. Arsene is a monument. It's a visionary. And the impact of Arsene in France is very, very, very strong. Very strong. He's a philosopher about football.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the kind of most powerful things about the film is how his transformation of Arsenal kind of tied in with England, and in particular London becoming a more international city and becoming more accepting of new cultures. And Arsene Wenger's Arsenal team were a very multicultural team. He spoke about that a lot, about kind of monoculture and multicultural And I think that's, I don't know, very, very powerful in terms of, you know, him bringing over a new philosophy. But then also, I think can't remember what he said. I've got it here. Yeah, I think he shouldn't take the English mentality out of an English team. So I don't know. There's kind of interesting themes about multiculturalism and integration and things. And yeah, it's interesting. You know what you say. You know, this is a manager who spent almost his entire career in England, and yet in France he's still seen as a philosopher and a visionary. So that's really interesting to hear. One man who was interviewed who wasn't connected with Arsene Wenger closely, but obviously was, you know, his enemy for a long time, Sir Alex Ferguson. He's the only non-Arsenal man to be interviewed in the documentary. I was wondering, how important was it to you and Gabriel Clark, who also directed it? How important was it to you to interview him?
What's the name in English? Two dinosaurs?
Yeah. That's what they describe themselves as, isn't it?
Seriously, Michael, congratulations for Noah Film and my friend Gabriel Clark, because without Sir Alex Ferguson, the film for me is not the same. And the interview of Alex is very, very important. It's an excellent interview. And I like so much Arsenal, but I respect so much this Sir Alex Ferguson band. Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, big team. I was in Old Trafford during this period, and for me, it's an incredible team. And I like so much Sir Alex Ferguson. And for me, the interview of Sir Alex in this Invincible is very, very, very important.
Yeah, I think it. I agree. I think it needs his kind of adversary to be there to really to fully describe just what it was like, you know, in that period between 1998 and 2004, in particular, when United and Arsenal were just going at it each other. And as we were discussing before, how kind of Arsenal were warriors at that time with, you know, with Arsene Wenger and with Patrick Vieira leading them on the pitch. Obviously, his clashes with Roy Keane were, you know, are the stuff of legend. But obviously, it's great to see, you know, Ferguson, you know, sing the praises of Wenger as well, because, you know, they obviously have such great respect for each other. On the subject of interviews, though, I think, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Ferguson is so central to the documentary in terms of covering that period. He's such a great interviewee, as is Patrick Vieira. I agree as well. Was there anyone that you'd have really loved to have interviewed for the film who you weren't able to?
I spoke sometime by WhatsApp with Jens Lehmann, the goalkeeper.
Okay.
I love so much this guy. With lockdown, it's too hard for me to go to see him in Munich, but it's a pity for me because it's something always happen with Jens Lehmann on the pitch or off the pitch. It's an incredible guy. I take a lunch 1 year ago with Arsene and Jens in London, and it's a funny story. I like this guy. It's a original goalkeeper, very original goalkeeper. And the name of the film is Invincible, and Jens Lehmann is invincible. He is a goalkeeper invincible. But I'm sorry, but with the lockdown, it's impossible to go to Munich.
Yeah, fair enough. It's funny you say that about Jens Lehmann, because I was reading recently, I think he still holds the record for the most red cards for a goalkeeper in Germany. He was quite a character in his playing days. Were there any, I mean, yeah, you mentioned lockdown. I mean, were there any other big challenges that you faced or things that you couldn't do because of filming in lockdown?
It's an incredible story, because when I have this idea about this film is before Brexit and before COVID. And I tried to make a co-production, Franco-Britannic production with Brexit and COVID. Oh, it's a hard job. And we share the job with Gabriel Clark. Gabriel make interview in London with Martin Keown, Sir Alex Ferguson, Jan Wright, of course. And in Paris, I make interview with Emmanuel Petit, Patrick Vieira, Arsene Wenger, of course, and Robert Pires.
We don't have too much time left, Christian, so I just wanted to ask the final two questions that the first one in particular, I'm really interested to hear your answer. So I think one of the most striking things about the film is that Wenger he's very honest throughout, which I think is great, and it's testament to the film and to the man. But what was really striking was that he really does express some regret in not leaving Arsenal sooner and taking up another job, another top job, because he obviously had, he could have managed anyone, couldn't he, at his peak? He had offers coming in from everyone from Real Madrid to the Milan club, Juventus. Which club, if you could see Arsene Wenger at any other top club, in the latter stages of a career, which one would you have liked to have seen him go to?
No, Michael, no. the only club is Arsenal. Okay. Yeah. England national team or French national team, yes. Top class. Imagine the Stade de France, the French national team. Sometime I imagine a lineup in Stade de France with the Marseillaise and Arsene on the bench. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been quite a sight to behold. But you're not budging. You're at Arsenal through and through for Wenger. You're too romantic. Fair enough. Okay, so final question. A little bit of a, it ends on quite a somber note, the film. He talks about, when he eventually left the club, how it felt a little bit like a funeral. And it was interesting that you included some clips from Arsenal Fan TV, actually, in those latter stages. Kind of a two-part question. First of all, how important was it for you guys to cover what I think was quite a toxic atmosphere that built up in his final years, especially among some sections of the fan base? And do you think that social media has affected the way that managers have to deal with pressure now?
Michael, it's a new world, and the old world no come back. And for me, it's a public job. The problem is not social media. The problem for me is following often in England, in France, in Europe, in the world, in football. The president of club of football understand nothing about football. And the president listens the wind. Listens the wind. And when the president of football listens the wind, often the club go down.
When you say,
the problem is not the social media. Is the mind of the big boss on the TV, on the channel, on the club. You need to have a very good chairman.
Fair enough. So what you're saying is kind of sometimes that say the owners of clubs or whoever can be too easily swayed by the kind of public opinion and things like this.
Yeah, and when you are a big boss of the club, you need to have a very good mind, good brain, and you say courage.
Oh, courage, yeah.
Courage.
Yeah.
If you don't have courage, it's impossible to have a very good manager. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because the situation with the social media, with the press, with you, with the journalist, with me, it's a hard job, and you need to be together on the club. And the president, for me, it's very, very important. You need courage and no following the wind. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The social media is alive. It's a new world.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you mentioned courage, because I think that's another great theme in the film. The courage of David Dean to go for Arsene Wenger, who was generally unknown outside of the country, and the courage of Arsene Wenger to come in and implement his philosophy and completely change change the culture of Arsenal and very quickly see the amazing results that came out of that. But yeah, on that note, go and see Arsene Wenger Invincible if you can. Once again, just to remind you, out in cinemas on the 11th of November, and then out on other platforms on the 22nd of November. Thanks so much for speaking to us, Christian.
It's my pleasure, Michael. Sorry for my English. Huh?
Oh no, your English was excellent. Thanks so much for thanks so much for making the effort. It's far better than my French, I can tell you that right now. But yeah, thanks so much again for speaking to us, and enjoy the premiere. I hope Arsene enjoys it as well. And yeah, take care. Thanks so much.
I can cross my fingers. Thank you,
This
Michael.
desire of hating to lose makes you sometimes inhuman.
I'm saying to myself, is they looking for more?
I loved it.
I set them a target to win the championship without losing again.
Simply sensational!
This football is close to perfection.
Va-va-voom.
What do you know of my life concretely?
We don't know anything.
My father, he never told me well done. He said, you can do better.
It would have been easier if he would have made the decision.
You realize that's the end of something, like a funeral.
Arsene changed my life.
When the manager is defending you, you will die for him.
An entire league campaign without losing.
The achievement stands above everything else.
You want to discover something more, what football can give you. To transform it into art.